Greetings. Today we continue our study of the book of Jude. Today we're looking at Jude verse 16, the conduct of the apostates. It says, "These are murmurers, complainers, walking after their own lust, and their mouth speaketh great swelling words, having men's person in admiration because of advantage." Now the background of Jude 16 is important. So far we've looked at the who concerning the apostates in verse 4. There are certain ones who have crept in, turning the grace of God into lustful living and denying salvation in Jesus Christ. We further looked at the pictures of the apostates in verses 5 through 7. We considered Israel, the angels, and Sodom and Gomorrah. Then we looked at the marks of the apostates in verse 11. We looked at the way of Cain, the error of Balaam, and the gainsaying of Korah. And we considered the character of the apostates from verses 12 and 13, where they're described as hidden rocks, wicked shepherds, defective clouds, fruitless trees, wild raging waves, and aimless wandering stars. So as we come to Jude 16, now we want to look at the conduct of the apostates. The construction of this verse is that it's a very simple compound sentence. That is, two complete thoughts which are joined by the conjunction and. The first complete thought says, "These are complaining murmurers, walking for themselves according to the lust of themselves." The second says, "The swelling mouth of them is saying, admiring countenance for the sake of profit." Now the first sentence tells us the what of their conduct, and the second sentence tells us the why of their conduct. So let's look at the what of their conduct. When we analyze the sentence, it says the subject of the sentence is the word "these ones." And this is in a positive which threads all the way back through the letter to verse 4, where it renames the certain ungodly men. The main verb in the King James is the word are, which is the present tense of the Greek verb to be. They are being, which speaks of a present, continuing, and repeated state of being. It is a linking verb followed by a predicate nominative, which renames the subject. In the King James, it is the word murmurers. Then we have some modifiers. First, we have the word complaining, which is modifying the word murmurers, which may seem redundant, but we'll see a distinction in just a minute. Secondly, we have the participle phrase, which is used as an adjective, walking for themselves according to the lusts of themselves. And it also is modifying the word murmurers. So let's look with great detail and interest at the three things which are said about these apostates and what they're doing or their conduct. Number one, it says they're murmurers. Now, Webster defines murmurer as a half-suppressed or muttered complaint or grumbling. See, the lost apostate goes around grumbling about God's plan of salvation. The saved apostate goes about grumbling about God's plan of service, about God's plan of chastening and child training, of which the lost is never a partaker, according to Hebrews 12, verses 5 through 11. Where it says, "And you have forgotten the exhortation which speaketh unto you as unto children. My son, despise not the chastening of the Lord, nor faint when thou art rebuked of him. For whom the Lord loveth he chasteneth, and scourgeth every son whom he receiveth. If you endure chastening, God dealeth with you as with sons. For what son is he whom the Father chastens not, or disciplines not, child trains not? But if you be without chastisement, whereof all are partakers, then are ye bastards, your illegitimate contenders, and not sons. Furthermore, we have had fathers of our flesh which corrected us, and we gave them reverence. Shall we not much rather be in subjection to the Father of spirits and live? For verily they for a few days chastened us after their own pleasure, but he for our profit, that we might be partakers of his holiness. Now no chastening for the present seemeth to be joyous, but grievous, but nevertheless afterwards it yieldeth the peaceable fruit of righteousness unto them which are exercised thereby. Number 2, it says they're complaining murmurers. Again, Webster defines to express grief, pain, or discontent. To make a formal accusation or charge. And I believe we could relate the difference between these two to the difference between going the way of Cain and running greedily after the error of Balaam. Number 3, they're complaining, walking for themselves according to their own lust, murmurers. Listen to what the lost apostate says. Listen closely to their formal complaint, which they begin muttering under their breath. That complaint is that God's plan of salvation does not coincide with the way of life that they're walking for themselves according to their own lust. Likewise, listen to the saved apostate or the backsliders saying. If you listen closely, you'll hear their formal complaint. God's plan of service and child training violates the lustful way in which they're walking. So listen to what Jude is saying about these apostates. In order to justify their own lustful walk, as they walk, they are complainingly murmuring against God. And I don't think we need to miss the parallel of their walking to the end of Korah's gainsaying. And that is what the second verse of Jude 16 deals with more fully, and we'll continue that tomorrow.